is the Conservative Colonel Podcast with Harrison Dawes, where one man stands against the rising tide of liberalism. This officer in the battle to preserve our nation is the Conservative Colonel.
Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue.
And here's Harrison Dawes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Conservative Colonel Podcast. I'll be your host today. My name is Graves Baker, and I am glad to be back with everybody again. I do want to thank Harrison again for letting me do this. And before we get started, I want to remind everybody that the Conservative Colonel Podcast has its own website. So you can go to that. You can get some merch to support and also find out more about Harrison and I. We're also on pretty much every platform that you can get your podcast on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anything you can think of, it's there. So would love to get some 5-star ratings on those, and also, of course, share the episode after you listen to it or while you're listening to it. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning back in, and we have some issues going on, of course. There's always news in this country, but today about Mississippi and also federal. Mississippi has had issues with healthcare for a while. Not only access to it because it's so spread out. These really rural areas almost have nothing, and it takes so long to get to somewhere where if you need emergency care that you could get to it. That's one issue. But today I want to talk about some stuff going on in the pharmaceutical side in Mississippi. We've had a lot of issues with local pharmacies, family owned, independent, not CVS and those types of places. And we have a bill that passed the Senate, I believe did not pass the House as well, kind of two separate bills, or maybe they're the same. This is all new information to me. I have been talking to people I know in pharmacy. I do want to give a shout out to Hunt Howell from my hometown of Batesville, Mississippi. He works for a local pharmacy, and I've gotten a lot of this stuff I'm going to point out from him. And it's really a lot, so I'm going to have to do a deeper dive into this probably after the episode, but also more information is going to be coming out because this bill, which I believe officially is Senate Bill 2677, is going to conference now. So when that happens, a lot of times they're just going to try to take out a couple of little things that they don't like. And it seems in this instance that those couple of things that they want to take out are going to protect our local pharmacies here in the state, including like the ones that my friend works at. So a little bit more background information about this. It has a lot to do with PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers. Basically, since the 1980s, they've been a middleman between insurance companies, pharmacies, and like a lot of insurance, people that deal with insurance, you're already paying into that a decent amount every month just to get your regular care. And then, you have to meet all these deductibles. The insurance thing, it's really annoying. But the PBMs themselves have also grown corrupt, increasing your drug prices and things. And one way they do that is through spread pricing. So let's say that a drug actually costs $50 to buy. And a pharmacy, would normally pay that. However, a PBM, they're going to say, well, this actually costs $100 instead of $50. So your price is going to go up from that. And it hurts the independent local pharmacies because they are paying more than the drug is actually. That is not good business. That is I mean, any person that has worked in or runs a business knows that. That is not good business. So we're dealing with that, but yet 75% of the time, these PBMs will pay the pharmacy less they paid for the drug, obviously. They also get paid late a lot from what I'm hearing. Um, there was also an audit done on the PBMs here in Mississippi that they are paid between 8 and 22 times more than an independent pharmacy for the exact same drug. So not only are they paying more than the drug actually costs just to get it, but they are also not being paid at all. These guys are getting 8 to sometimes 22% of profit of what the small guys are getting. So it really is terrible on that end. Another thing, PBMs have also gotten to the point where it's basically a monopoly. Now, it's not just one business, but there's three that own 80% of the market for this stuff. That's CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and Optum Rx control 80% of the market. And of course, based off the numbers I've said, they're prioritizing profits over patient access because they're not covering the scripts at independent pharmacies. They are making you basically, they're forcing you to say, hey, you have to go get your script filled here. You can't get your script filled at this local pharmacy that you've been going to for 30 years. Now you have to go to CVS. Well, I don't have a CVS an hour, it's an hour away from me. It's too bad. That's who we do business with. You got to go there to get your medicine. So it just makes everything, not only monetarily, but everything. Your access is going to get harder. These local places are going to close if we don't get this bill passed. And I'll tell you why. It's because the Senate bill, SB 2677, is to address the issues with the PBM. And now it's in conference, of course, but that leaves these local pharmacies very vulnerable to being stripped of those protections that were originally in the bill. And you're going to see a lot more close. By the way, there's been an average of 20 pharmacies closing weekly, a week, not a month, not a year, a week for the last 4 years. And Mississippi, like I said at first, has problems with healthcare substantially already. And that shows in those numbers, but it's only going to get worse because what they're going to try to do, I hope not, but we'll see, and I'll come back to this in a later episode, is that they will probably try to take out all of this good stuff for these local pharmacies because, oh, well, where's all the money going? It's going to these big companies. Yes, that's corruption. That is how this works in our country for a while now, sadly. New administration is working on some stuff, but we need action in Mississippi on this. Now, this bill would ban spread pricing where they say, oh, it costs $100, but it's actually $50. Yeah, it would ban that. It would also ban forcing you to go to a specific pharmacy. So you don't have to go to that CVS that's an hour or more away anymore. And it will require that these local pharmacies get paid on time by these PBMs. So I don't see a single thing in any of this that is actually bad for the people of Mississippi. Well, I'll tell you what. You know what they're saying? They're saying, well, we don't want to pass this. We got to do something about it because it'll increase your premiums $20 to $30 a month. Well, truth is, your rates on both medicine and premiums are already going up because of the PBMs. You take them out of it, your rate's going to go down. But also, let's say it did go up $20 to $30 a month. That you spend that every single day on food in one day. Even if you're a single person like me. So that is not that big of a, okay, it takes away one meal for me per month. Well, first off, I don't even believe that increase is going to happen. I think it would be a reverse. But even if that's the case, you're still helping out the community. You're not, it's not just a pharmacy closing. it's more than that. It's your access to care to get your medicine is going to be farther away and farther away and farther away. And those people are going to be losing their jobs. So you're hurting the job market as well. We need this bill to pass, is what I'm getting at. There's no reason that with the problems we already have here in the state, that we should not be passing this. And, I've heard about this issue for the past couple of weeks, and I've seen people posting about it, advocating for this, saying, hey, let's reach out to these people. I am going to pledge to you right now, I'm going to reach out to these people in the House, and maybe even in the Senate if I need to. But regardless, I will be reaching out to these people. So I encourage all of you to do the same thing, and hopefully, we can get this done. Now, another topic that we have in Mississippi is the Mississippi income tax. I know it sounds good, and of course it does. Nobody wants to pay income tax, but there's kind of a catch to this. One, it's going to take 12 years to phase out. And yes, the governor's already signed this, but it will take 12 years to phase it out. So over 12 years, you're going to be slowly paying less income tax, but then you're also going to have increased taxes in other places. Like the gas tax has already gone up a little bit, apparently. Past the gas tax, the grocery tax, which we already have the highest grocery tax in the country, that is probably going to go up as well. I don't know if they have started working on that yet or not. Getting rid of the income tax like 9 other states have sounds like a good thing if you do it the right way. You could say, well, you're getting rid of taxes. You have to tax somewhere else to get that money, right? Investments. Look at what Trump is doing. With the federal economy right now, Trump has already secured $3 trillion in investments. It's not going to have an immediate impact, but guess what? If the next president doesn't screw it up, that's going to help us tremendously, each person. All of those things that, by the way, these people have to create jobs as well with that money. It's not just going to thin air like the last administration was having money do. So in Mississippi, which we have, I will say, had an increase the last 4 years in investments to our state. We are now within the top 20 in economic outlook in the country. So we've done a better job at that. But, why say get rid of the income tax just to have no benefit really from it? What if we end up paying more because of the increases in other places? Both with the Senate bill for the pharmacy stuff and this, we're just going to have to see over time, what happens. We need to look at the percent increase versus decrease. We need to see what they take out of the Senate bill for pharmacy. There's a lot of things that right now are just in the works, and we have to see exactly how they pan out. But I can tell you that if you are going to have $3 trillion in investments, and if Mississippi could just get 500 billion more, maybe $1 trillion would be a tough bet. But if we just get some more and continue to do that and build our state up, because we have plenty of land. There's plenty of land to build these big plants, whatever it is. There's plenty of room in this state to build hospitals, to build more pharmacies, to get more investments in regular business, manufacturing, oil. What about oil? We have a Gulf. We could be drilling more, get more contracts for that in the state, bring in more revenue. There's things that we can do that we just are not doing right now. Instead, with this income tax thing, we want to say, well, yeah, we're getting rid of your income tax. You're going to work hard and keep your money, more of it. Well, we know y'all are raising these other taxes. So again, over 12 years of phasing this out, we will see how it actually goes. But as of right now, I don't really have a ton of confidence. Harrison and I agree on that. that, there is going to be something else coming up that could make it where we actually are spending more money on taxes. But you know what that would mean? The way that doesn't happen is if they are actually responsible with our money and with their thinking as these years go on and we do tax stuff. But who's going to sit here and say, I trust the government to be frugal with my money? They're not. They're not. It doesn't matter if 80% of the people in the house say, I'm going to do this. It ain't going to happen. Something else is always going to happen. And for another example, even when people in the state of Mississippi want something, they'll still shut it down. We voted for legal marijuana here in the state. Or medical, sorry. We have medical now. But at the time that we voted for medical marijuana, we had passed it through a vote. It got passed completely. Supreme Court of Mississippi said, no, it doesn't matter. Y'all voted for it. It was passed through everything, and it's all good. No, y'all ain't doing it. Well, of course, later on, as that thing went through appeals and other judgments, it got overturned. Our Supreme Court got overturned, which they should have because we voted for it. Whether you agree with, legal medical marijuana or not. We did vote for it as citizens. It won more than 50% of the vote. So the Supreme Court should not be able to say you can't do that. There's probably if there's some liberals listening, you're probably thinking about another thing with the National Supreme Court, which I will not get into on this episode, but I could debunk where you're going with that too. However, please reach out to these people in the Mississippi Senate and the House. Doesn't matter their position. Heck, even call the governor. Leave him it doesn't matter. Send emails. Let's get this thing for the pharmacies passed. And let's also keep an eye on what they're doing with our taxes after they've passed this income tax bill. So with that, we got some more topics coming up, but I will take a quick commercial break real fast. So everybody, again, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome back to the Conservative Colonel Podcast. Thanks for staying with me, and I will remind you once again that you can catch us on pretty much any platform that you want to catch a podcast on, any podcast, but go to ours and give us a 5-star rating. Also, you can go to our website. I believe it is theconservativecolonel.com, but you can go there, just look up the Conservative Colonel Podcast online. It'll probably pop up. And you can buy merch. Please do that. We got some cool stuff and even more coming. But on to our next topics. We've got a new thing that's going into, I believe, in the federal government in the House, or maybe Senate. But it's a new bill that will be called the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act. And basically what that's going to be is if you have somebody who's a dual citizen, aka Ilhan Omar, a citizen of Somalia who is running for office, they have to disclose every country that they have citizenship in, even if it's more than just, here and somewhere else like her. Really, I don't even trust that. She might have another one too. But I think this is a good thing. It's a good start, I'll say, because it might need to go deeper. I haven't read the whole thing, so, I don't know if it's going to bring up any other, let's say that you're affiliated with Hamas, not just a country. I think we should also do that, where we have to prove that they're not also loyal to some terrorist group somewhere. And there's probably more things you could throw in there too, besides just that. But I think it'd be a good idea to just really have a deep dive on that. If you're not only an American citizen who was born here, which, by the way, you can't even run for president if you were not born in the United States. I think it should kind of be the same with every other office. Maybe that's just me. I doubt it, though. The issue is when you have people coming over here like Ilhan Omar, who, by the way, there's something going on with her brother as far as citizenship in the first place. Uh, uh, I'm not going to get into all of that, but you have instances of that. Look at the United Kingdom / England right now. They have multiple Muslim mayors. And you're going to say, okay, well, what's the issue that they have people that believe in a different religion? Well, let me tell you something. You want to talk about culture. Culture of the West is being destroyed. Okay, Western culture is Christianity. It is. I don't have a problem with someone who believes in their Muslim faith. Okay. What I do have a problem with is when you're letting people flood your country and they start taking power, which is what happened there. You know, like these people who were not from your country are now running your cities. And okay, sure, they have citizenship now. But it's a much bigger issue than that. When you're seeing what's happening in the UK right now, throwing people in jail for a tweet saying that, oh, well, I'm tired of the illegal immigration, people coming into the UK. You go to jail. You criticize a politician, you go to jail. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you cannot tell me that this has nothing to do with the fact that all this foreign power is coming in. What, isn't there one of their prime ministers or somebody that was in the parliament that was extremely high up, maybe the Speaker of the House or whatever you call him, was also a Muslim? Okay, this has nothing to do with race. If you think that you can't be white and be a Muslim, then you need to wake your brain up. This has nothing to do with race. I'm not talking about a certain color of people. I'm talking about an ideology versus an ideology of a country. You are tearing apart the country at its seams, and when people complain about it, they're going to jail. And you just see the policies that are happening besides that. The UK right now is, it could happen here. Where all you see in the UK now, just like in America, with these people that have no jobs, that came from another country just protesting 24/7, and it is just so annoying. Protesting is fine. You can protest all you want to. But when you're burning Teslas, and you're supporting terrorist groups, and you are locking Jewish people and, beating them on university campuses, locking them into rooms, barricading it, yelling death to Israel and Jews and stuff, and you're painting swastikas on Teslas, and you're all for everybody coming across the border, which, by the way, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. You just have land that whatever happens, happens. Okay? If we had lost the election, it would have gotten a lot worse. We would have had people like the UK coming in and taking over. You see what Ilhan Omar did in Minnesota? She has completely turned that into, there's like these pockets of Somalians, they like run cities. So, okay, well, white people have run cities, blah, blah. No, this is not the same thing. This is not the same thing as a foreign country coming in, people from a foreign country and just taking over your cities. Trinidad, Aurora, Colorado. All of this stuff, along with what they're doing to Teslas, this is all, it goes hand in hand with just letting whoever do whatever, get whatever position of power they want by coming across illegally and acting like they are only loyal to your country when in reality, not even close. So just keep all that in mind. And I hope that this bill does go a little bit deeper than just showing, okay, I'm also a citizen of this country. We need to be very careful about who we let in, who we let get into power. It's not about shutting down people just because we don't like them. It's about making sure that we maintain not only what the founding fathers wanted this country to be, but what it has been and could be, because things have gone downhill. Now we are starting to get out of that. But we let this border invasion happen again and let foreign people that came across illegally get positions of power like in the UK. I'm telling you, this country, it will go downhill so fast. And you will wonder what happened and how it went wrong so quick. Well, we've been trying to tell you all the whole time. Now, our last topic today has to do with the Department of Education. As you've seen, Trump signed an executive order to dismantle it, or really close to dismantling it. What he's doing is grants, tuition, food, all that stuff, by the way, are already mostly covered by a different department. The Department of Agriculture takes care of the food in schools. It's going to stay there. The Department of Commerce deals with transportation to public schools. It's going to stay there. There's another side of this, the grants. That is another department that I can't remember right now, but you're not going to lose your FAFSA. You're not going to lose your Pell Grant. None of that's going away. What is going away is the $3 trillion that we've spent over the last 45 years on the Department of Education that did not increase our scores. In most categories have actually gone down below what it was back then. Makes sense. You see how many, well, you know what I'm getting at, what you see every day in this country. And also fascism. I think we need to be teaching that literally again, because the people who claim that we are fascists, or Elon is a fascist, and Trump is a fascist, and JD is a fascist, and you're a fascist if you're a Republican, they don't even know what it means. They overuse it, and they are the ones that do the fascist stuff, burning down cities, government buildings. Over 2,000 police officers were killed back in 2020s in the George Floyd riots. But my point is, they're spray painting and keying Teslas, who, by the way, Elon doesn't drive every one of those. These are innocent people. They are spray painting swastikas. How ironic is that? They're not the Nazis, but we are, and yet they are spraying that insignia on everything. They are the ones that are covering their face, going around creating violence all the time. And I don't want to hear about January 6th. There was one casualty that day, and it was not an officer. $2 billion worth of damage. And I'm getting off on the subject. I'm sorry. But that's just proof of the Department of Education. These people are getting indoctrinated. The money we have spent on it and the money their parents have spent on getting their education has done nothing. It has done nothing. So getting rid of this is a great thing. The Department of Education did not pay a single teacher directly. It did not employ anybody at your university or your public school. They did not do any of that. They got $3 trillion over 45 years to, quote, what's the word I'm trying to think of? They just were supposed to give policy. This is what we need to focus on. That's really all they were supposed to do. $3 trillion. And look where it got us. We went from number 1 in the world in education. Now we're like sitting about 30. Maybe worse than that now. All that money did nothing. When the states were in charge of it, which, by the way, that money now goes to the states instead, because we still have that set up. Like, instead of it going to the Department of Education, we split it between the states. You're welcome. This is how it's supposed to be. The government should not be choosing what we're teaching our kids. And The bill in the Senate, it's sponsored by Rand Paul, Mike Lee, and Bernie Moreno. And I haven't looked into it yet, but here's the basic gist of it, is that Trump signed the executive order just like Jimmy Carter did to establish it in 1979. However, Congress then, after Jimmy Carter signed his executive order, then went and passed an actual bill and made it law through Congress. So now, even though that Trump has signed this, the dismantling has begun. The cutting of funds to it, the making sure that, cutting certain things in it, but making sure that everything else that is not already in a different department gets put into a department to keep going. And then the rest of the money goes to the states. However, to do that, you need Congress to fully abolish it. So you can start it, but what's going to happen? If Congress doesn't actually pass this to abolish it and to do what's already being done through executive process, you're going to look 4 years from now, if we don't win that election, and the Democrats are just going to completely wipe it off. They're going to bring it back. They're going to bring back the Department of Education. And hopefully we do get this done so we don't have to wait that long to see results, because if we get this passed in the Senate first, then the House, back to the president, if we get that passed, I believe if we do it quick enough, we will see significant improvement just over the next 2.5, 3 years, when, more, not just test scores, but everything else. How many people are showing up to school, get the indoctrination out of it for sure. We don't need kids being taught that, hey, you can change your gender at 4 years old. Saw a video today, this dad, and I'm not making this up, it's on TikTok, so you can find it. He was talking to his son. His son said he's a girl. He was like, well, you're not a girl, you're a boy. Who told you that? Oh, well, mommy told me that. Okay, I know that's not a teacher. How does that have to do with the Department of Education? But this happens in schools too, okay? I'm just using one example right here. The court system now, because the mother divorced him, and the mother is saying that he has to get gender transition surgery. This kid is very, very, very young. I'm talking, 6, 7, first grade, second grade max, kindergarten even maybe. So his mom is telling him that he's a girl. Well, it went to court for child support. Now the dad is supposed to pay child support to get the transition surgery. He's being forced into that, or else he goes to jail for not paying child support. We should not have to pay child support for that. And a lot of times teachers are also teaching that. You've seen the videos of the teachers that have all that stuff in their room and talk about how they talk about it to the kids. So overall, getting rid of this is not a waste of money. It's going to be good for our students. Your state, if you're mad about it and you live in California, why? Because your state now gets even more power to teach them that if you want to. Whatever. You do that in your state, we don't do it in mine. That is how it's supposed to work in this country, especially when it comes to educating your kids. So that is just about all I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you do take what I said about the pharmacy stuff. You take everything seriously. But if you're in Mississippi right now, just really, really pay attention to the pharmacy stuff, because it will affect all of us. Whether you work in pharmacy or not, it will affect all of us. And income tax, just be ready. Be looking for the other stuff that may increase, that will increase, and what else they do. Keep your eye on that. Keep yourself informed. And, like I always say, don't stop fighting. We got to win the midterms in 26. We got to win the presidential election in 28. But it's a constant process. Don't just wait until the end of the election to start getting worried. Start now, you'll be less worried then. So, thanks for tuning in. Please share this out. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast catcher app of choice. Check out our website, get some merch, and let everybody know about what I said today. Everything is backed up by facts. If I said I didn't know something for sure, I told you. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Conservative Colonel podcast, and we will catch you all next week. God bless America. God bless Mississippi.